Bitcoin currently down over 1%, with the rest of the crypto markets, as we see total down over 1%. Could we expect to see some major price action that could be happening over the weekend? We're going to be taking a look into the chart setup and see what that says. Now, I've been talking about this breakdown here for Bitcoin, which is a rising wedge pattern on the weekly time frame. Broke down a few weeks ago. Breakdown target is about 80 something thousand. If we get all the way there, that is not going to be pretty for the altcoin markets. We are on a major moving average right now, which is the weekly 50 SMA. I don't expect that to hold because we have been on this weekly moving average for the third time. And when you keep hitting a support, that is not good. I mean, that support gets weaker. However, we are in the zone as well that I see. Okay, it is between anywhere between about 93,000 to about 105,000 in this zone of support here because there has been quite a bit of consolidation that happened before. This area could still be support, okay? So if the weekly 50 SMA does not hold, we could potentially find support in this zone anywhere from about 93 to 105, which overlaps the weekly 50 SMA, okay? However, if this zone does not hold, then we could potentially be looking down at the monthly 21 SMA, which has not been hit, okay, during this trend. And I expect that to be very strong support because it's the first time price action goes down to that support level. That's currently at about 87,000, which is still quite a bit of way to go for Bitcoin, okay? And if we actually go down there, that's not going to be good for a lot of these altcoins here. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame. I do want to mention that we're going to be taking a look into a few altcoin setups later in this video, which would include Polkadot, Arweave, as well as D Agent AI, AIA, and see what's happening in those markets. What has changed since the last time I've talked about them? I want to say that there's been quite a bit of changes in those markets. I have invalidated a few patterns because either they have been the price action have broken down or they have met their price targets. Now, we're also going to be taking a look into viewer comments because every Wednesday, every Saturday, I respond to viewer comments verbally on this show. And I'm going to get into the viewer comments as well. But first of all, let's go ahead and finish this chart update for Bitcoin. I talked about the head and shoulders pattern that we had broken down from on the daily time frame. Breakdown target would be about 95,000, 96,000 ish, okay? Now we are seeing some bullish divergence playing out right now on the daily time frame, and if Bitcoin gets a daily candle close about 101,000 in that range, there is still another possible bullish divergence scenario here if you actually follow me on the RSI. Okay, that's where you get equal or lower lows on the price action chart, but you see equal or higher lows on the RSI, indicating that the bears are losing strength. There is a possibility of a bullish divergence scenario here, depending on how low this daily candle goes. Now, we are running within a falling wedge pattern, which tells me that if we actually break out of this pattern here, right, then this entire breakdown target could be avoided, okay, because the price target of this falling wedge breakout would be about 128,000. Now, price targets are estimates only, and we are basically in the middle of a huge battle here. Okay, will the bears continue breaking down to that 80,000 targets, or could the bulls actually rebound from here and rebound all the way up to about 128,000? That would be very good for the altcoins. Okay. Now, I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here, so my opinions on these markets, at least in the longer term right now, is still bullish. I am still looking for ways to make money in the short term, including hedging my long positions. with short positions in appropriate areas. One of the potential areas I'm looking to short, I'm looking for a confirmation later, but it would be about that 106,000 area where I'm looking for a small short position with a very short stop, because that was that was the support of that head and shoulders pattern. And my reasoning is, if we get rejected at that 106,000 ish resistance and get a bearish retest, I will still get paid, right? I'm basically creating a win-win scenario for myself. If we get rejected there, I will still get paid. However, if the price action breaks back on top of the daily of the 106,000 with the daily candle close, right? Then the increase of my long position values should overcompensate for that short position that I get liquidated in. So basically, I'm creating a win-win scenario for myself. Of course, there could still be a probability where I lose on both of those, right? Like, for example, if I actually get a fake breakout above the 106,000 and the price action gets a sharp rejection, right, after my short stop, right, then I could lose on both positions. Of course, nothing in this market is 100%, but I'm just putting my money where I think it could favor my positions, right? So that's basically what I'm looking at and what I could potentially be doing. Of course, all of this is just my opinions and what I'm personally doing. It is not financial advice. You guys got to figure out your own strategies and opinions because everyone's situation is unique. Now, let's go ahead and take a look into viewer comments. Okay, I also want to point out to you guys on a shorter time frame here that I pointed out that there was a double bottom pattern on the 6-hour time frame. It is still a valid pattern with bullish divergence. It is trying to get back on top of the 6-hour 21 SMA, which is at about 102.5, the blue line here. Now, if this double bottom pattern plays out to the upside, the neckline would be about 104.5K, right? The price target would be about 110K, which would be amazing in the short term. Okay, let's see if we get back up there. However, always got to consider the downside of these patterns as well, because even though these technical analysis patterns have a higher probability of breaking to one direction, they still have a smaller chance of breaking to the other direction. We're all just talking about probabilities here. Okay, let's go ahead and go to viewer comments. All right, first viewer comments on my latest Aether video. Thank you so much. I appreciate your insights. Thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate your comments. The next one here says, and Gala. Yeah, I'll bring you guys a Gala update if enough of you guys want to see it. So please do make sure to let me know if you guys want to see more Gala. Next one here says AI16Z rebranded to Eliza OS. So I do see that, and I do see the AI16Z market stopped updating. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring you guys updates on Eliza for any of you guys who are still interested in the coin. The next one says, I like the way you're thinking. Thank you very much. I'm just providing you guys my insights. Next one says, Onyx ruined it with 40% APR staking. I'm not really sure about the fundamentals of behind Onyx. I'm just letting you guys know what's going on in the charts. But yeah, do share your insights in the comment section below. Next one says, thank you. Next one says, 0.4 cents. Here we come for Onyx. What do you guys think about Onyx coin? Are you guys bullish on Onyx coin? Are you guys bearish? Let me know. I am bullish on the crypto market as a whole. Of course, there's going to be exceptions to some coins. You know, not every coin is going to pump, right? But I do think the majority of the altcoins will be pumping with Bitcoin. Okay, because my reasoning is, if we actually think back to 2021, which seemed like there were a lot less coins to keep track of. I don't think I've seen a coin that has not pumped that has been in the market since January 2021. That was the start of the last real bull cycle. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I saw a coin that did not pump since that has been around since January 2021 during that bull cycle. So that's my reasoning. If Bitcoin pumps, I think it's gonna pump most of these altcoins. All right, let's go ahead and go to altcoin setups. First of all, we're going to be taking a look into Arweave and see what's happening with Arweave here. It is down over 16% today, but it has had quite a bit of movement this week. I talked about this falling wedge pattern. Falling wedges are bullish patterns that have a higher chance of breaking to the upside, and this one broke to the upside quite some time ago before actually just having a little bit of a downtrend here for quite a few weeks. It's not uncommon to see a breakout of a falling wedge pattern and you see the price action actually comes down quite a bit, right? Because there's just so much resistance on top of the price action. Including your weekly 21 SMA right now, that is still resistance until you get a solid candle close above it. That is about $6.20. You're going to have your weekly 50 SMA, your weekly 200 SMA. Those are going to be your major resistances as well that you should be looking out for. Now, there is bullish divergence playing out on the weekly time frame. That's why you should also pay attention to divergences, right? I did talk about a potential cup and handle pattern on the daily time frame that basically has been invalidated, right? It just blasted through before even consolidating for a cup and handle. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame here, 2-hour time frame, where I see a probably even the 1-hour time frame falling wedge pattern, falling channel pattern, which works almost the exact same way as a falling wedge pattern. Now, this has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. This is an hourly time frame, and if it breaks to the upside here, the price target would be about $9.15 if it breaks out by this point here, for example. Now, for these altcoins, a lot of which is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin starts dumping from here, that could invalidate a lot of these altcoin setups. So always pay attention to Bitcoin first before these altcoins. Let's go ahead and go to D-Agent AI, which is AIA USDT. See what's happening with this coin here. Now, I talked about a potential cup and handle pattern that has basically, it has not even consolidated to form a cup and handle before blasting through this resistance at about $3.80. Okay, so what could be happening with D-Agent AI right now? I think some things to be paying attention to is the RSI, and on the 3-day time frame, it's the highest time frame that this RSI is apparent in. Okay, now it is at about over an 80 RSI reading, so it is in overbought territory. So it gets riskier as the RSI reading gets higher. Okay, in a 0 to 100 scale. So something to be mindful of. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame here, which is the 2-hour time frame, where I see a falling wedge pattern. Falling wedge patterns. If you want to take a price target, you measure the opening of the pattern. You put it on top of an estimated breakout point. Let's just say if it breaks out here, for example, price target would be about $16. Always mind the downside risk of these patterns as well. So let's see if this plays out. Let's go ahead and go to Polkadot and see what's happening with Polkadot. I also want to point out on AIA that there is also bearish divergence on the daily time frame that is playing out right now. Okay, let's see how far this plays out, right? What I'm talking about is comparing highs on the price action chart, which would be this high right here versus this high right here, and we have a lower high on the RSI. So bearish divergence could be playing out right now. Let's see if that falling wedge pattern on the 2-hour time frame holds, or could this be more downside? Okay, If so, the next big support, of course, is going to be the previous resistance at about $3.80. That would be the next big support. Okay, as your daily moving averages are still below that resistance. Let's go ahead and go to Polkadot and see what's happening with Polkadot. Weekly time frame. Talked about this falling wedge pattern for, I think, almost the entirety of this year. Yeah, crypto has been boring this year, but it is not a reason to give up. I think it's just been a lot of twists and turns since April, March of last year, right? That was when things were very easy before then. And since then, it has been not so easy. I mean, there has been a few highlights here and there, but nothing has been straight up or down, right? It could be quite frustrating trading sideways. And sometimes when Bitcoin goes sideways, these altcoins will tank, okay, as we have seen. But it is not a reason to give up. I've been in this game for way too long. I mean, not that long, like 5+ years. But I know that there's going to be an end to every cycle. Your bull cycle, your bear cycles, your sideways cycles, and I do think at the end of this cycle, there's going to be a lot more bullish price action, with the main reasoning being that the Fed has just started its Fed rate cut cycle back in September. All right, Polkadot here. This is falling wedge pattern, falling channel pattern, however you want to call it. Now, it has also this bigger falling wedge pattern here. If it breaks out by this point, for example, price target would be about $19. What's amazing about this pattern is that the price action has been able to stay on top of the bottom trend line here with candle closes. Now, candle wicks below the pattern do not invalidate a pattern. Candle closes do, and I think the highest time frame on for this pattern is actually a monthly time frame, right? So so candle wicks do not invalidate patterns. Candle closes do, and candle closes with the monthly candle will invalidate this pattern. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. And what's amazing about this pattern is the price action has been staying on top of it. So that tells me traders are seeing this pattern as well. Now let's go ahead and go to zoom in a little bit, which Polkadot has broken out of this falling wedge pattern quite some time ago on the weekly time frame back in February. Price target for this pattern here is still valid, with the price target to be about $10 price target. There is quite a bit of divergence that could be playing out right now on the weekly time frame. Bullish divergence. Okay, so that is basically what I'm seeing for Polkadot. Let's see if it could still meet that $10 target before breaking out of this huge falling channel pattern. Okay, there's quite a bit of resistance on top of the price action, including all your weekly moving averages. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame and see if there's any other signals to be paying attention to. 1 hour time frame, falling wedge pattern. Price target, it already broke out. Price target would be about $3.50. Okay, small pattern, small target. Let's see if it gets there. This basically wraps up for this video. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of Arweave, Polkadot, D-Agent AI, or any other coins in this market by dropping a like, comment, subscribe. I'll pick a request too for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.